You guys have been asking for some more details about this tractor that I bought, and there's just many reasons why I've had to put this off. One of them is it's been hard to get my camera lady this close to the tractor and yet with a positive attitude. So you know how it goes. It's gonna take a little time on that, but we're making progress. At least I've got her now within 10 or 12 feet of it. I haven't had her in the operator's seat yet, so she's still a little resistant on that, but at least she's willing to use the camera and get close enough for that. I've put 10 hours on this machine now, enough to kind of know what works, what doesn't. So I'm going to show you that, talk about some of the things we're going to work on first. Let's get started. First, let's review what happened. I went to this auction by myself. Probably the last auction I'll ever attend by myself. You know, I kind of like Christy going along when we would do things like that, and she decided she wasn't going to go, and well, from now on I think she'll participate. My left hand got a twitch in it, and it started going like this when this tractor came through, and the first time that I bid was a pretty decent value. It was like $8,500. I thought this tractor's going to sell for nearly nothing, so I bid, and before you know it, as I was bidding, everyone else quit, and that's what happened, and I ended up paying $14,000 for the tractor. It's got 3,630 hours on it when I bought it, 3,639 and a half now, so almost 10 hours I put on it, as I said. So let's just address some general questions before I get into any details. Number one, would I buy this again if I had actually taken the time to look it over before the auction? Now, confession, we went to the auction site the day before. And we drove through the auction site, and I told Christy, I said, I don't think there's anything interesting here. I think most of it's just junk. So we didn't even stop and look at this tractor. Yeah, I looked at it. I could see it from a distance, and I had seen that it had 3,600 hours, and thought, well, that looks, you know, looks pretty nice, but it's really old. You know, it's probably just junk. So I didn't actually take the time to look at it, even though I drove right by. And yeah. So this is an example of how not to buy equipment at auction, especially when you have a chance to look at stuff. To not take that chance wasn't really very bright here. But I have done some follow-up to figure out a little more about the history of this tractor. It's a one-owner tractor owned by the city of Mendota, Illinois. It was manufactured, I believe, in May of 2011. They owned it the entire time. Based on some things I see here, I believe it was maintained meticulously by them. Actually, for a machine that has 3,600 hours on it, the maintenance appears to have been perfect. Just well cared for. There's no question in my mind that this machine has seen not an easy life, but a well cared for life. And I think you can probably understand the differences in what I say there. When I say not an easy life, it's been involved in a lot of salt. I think it's had a salt spreader on the back. You can see that makes sense. You can see that it's got the front 3-point hitch components here, with the exception of the actual lift arms. That would mean that it's ran either a blade or a blower. It does have a mid-PTO, so that could have been used as a blower. It could also have been used with a blade or a broom, but since it doesn't have a loader, we're almost certain that it was used in one of those fashions for snow removal. I'll show you some salt damage while I'm at it. Let's take a look at that. So we can see some salt damage here. The paint is chipped up. I don't think the rust is out of control here, so I don't know how damaged this really is, but we can see that the salt has eaten through the outer layer of paint. Now this left-hand inner wheel is worse. I'm pretty sure that the salt spreader must have spun in this direction and constantly threw salt at this inner rim. I don't know how bad it is. I need to take the wheel off, get in there and scrape around and see how bad it is. Does this need to be replaced? Or can it be cleaned up and repainted and last for the life of the tractor? Now this is a little bit dirty here from where I've used it over the last 10 hours. But there is some salt damage right here on this frame piece or ROPS piece or cab mount. I don't know what we would call it here. And I say salt damage, I just mean it's rusty. But when I dig in there, I believe everything is still solidly intact and it's really just kind of a surface rust. So I probably just need to take care of that, clean it up, paint it. It's probably not that big of a deal. These hydraulic lines have some damage here right around this bracket. I think I need to take this all apart and clean them. I might be able to have my neighbor Rex do some sandblasting on this and see if we can get those cleaned up. Fascinating thing, we replaced some of these lines, 2 of these lines on my 3046R due to the mistake I made. You can go back and see that video earlier this summer. And I looked at the pricing at greenpartsstore.com for these lines on this tractor, and even though it's an older machine, these lines are actually cheaper than for the new 3R. So about $80 per line. I don't want to have to replace them, but if I do need to replace them, it won't entirely break the bank. So that's an overall example of the type of salt damage that we see on this tractor. I'm not sure that any of it is major, but it will be major if it's not kind of treated and repainted and taken care of at this point. These rear tires are worn a lot, and that's something that definitely needs to be considered when you're buying a used older tractor, because investing in tires like this is going to be pretty expensive. Having said that, worn turf tires may be an advantage for me in some of the applications I've got in mind for this thing. I think this may become a mowing tractor for me. Talk more about that as we go along here, but I may just keep these tires, and I may look for used tires, maybe some used industrial tires or used ag tires, just to have some variety here. It'll also depend on those rims, right? If the rims are fine, I can continue to use these tires for quite some time. I suspect it's had a lot of road time, and so that's worn them faster than what I will wear them out in the grass. So they're not old. I don't sense that they're old tires. You don't see any cracking, right, or dry rot. So the tires, the quality of them are fine. It's just a matter of tread wear, and I could probably use these for years. This is one of the most immediate issues that I need to fix. It's pretty expensive. Replacing this top, I believe, was $1,200 at greenpartsstore.com, and that's if I use coupon code TTWT for free shipping. Otherwise, the shipping on this would be pretty expensive just because of its size. But my neighbor Chris says that we can fix this. And so we'll try to do a video showing how we can fix this. I'm really not sure what happened here, but I suspect we ran into something. You can see kind of where it scrapes along here. I'm thinking that they may have used this in a really tight space and hit this roof up here and broke it. The reason I'm wanting to make sure it gets fixed fairly soon is I'm afraid it leaks, you know, into the interior of the cab, or at least into the air conditioning system there. And yeah, I want to get that fixed. So that'll be a project for neighbor Chris and to help us with. The radio antenna is broken. I'm not even sure I'm going to fix that right now because, well, I don't use the radio. I listen to podcasts, I use my ISOtunes, so it's not a Bluetooth radio, so I'm not sure if I'll even fix that this minute. I found that it is still orderable through greenpartsstore.com, so I can replace that anytime I want. It doesn't work very well. I can tell you that the FM radio doesn't hardly receive without that antenna, so we need it, but I don't think I'm going to fix it right now. I talked about usage in narrow spaces. I think that's what's going on here. Both fenders are broken, both sides. I've went ahead and ordered these from greenpartsstore.com. I've got them on the way. They look to be easy to replace. We'll show that in another episode as well, but they just go around here. They're totally external to the cab, so it doesn't look like that's going to be a problem. They are expensive, $341 per fender.
Ouch!
Yeah, I'm in a little trouble on that. I didn't think they would be nearly that expensive, honestly. So yeah, I'm glad you can still get them for a 2011 tractor, but they are expensive. I thought, well, maybe they're more expensive because it's an older tractor. I looked at the fenders on the 3R tractor, which are slightly different, but they're almost identical price. So it's not because it's old. Okay, look here, there's a bulge here in the seal that goes around the glass here. And I don't think I can train that to operate better, to stick in there, and I think they had some trouble with it. It still seals pretty well, so, but I decided to go ahead and order it. Okay, it is cosmetic and wouldn't be required, but I decided to order it. I think the seal was 80 bucks. Again, we'll try to show that in a later episode. This hinge here has a nail for the hinge. Looks like a 16-penny nail. But hey, it's working beautifully. I don't think I'm going to change it. This one has looks like a machine screw in it that I don't think was original either. But again, I don't think I'm going to change it. I have no idea why they were lost or broken or whatever, but I don't think I'm going to change it. I knew this machine had a third function. I could see the third function valve in the rear, but I didn't have the switch up here. And I did see some hydraulic switches back here. I just couldn't figure out what was going on and almost gave up. But then I got in here and I decided I would start digging around, and looked here. Here's the switch right here. It's supposed to go in the handle, but there's been a replacement handle purchased, I believe, at least the plastic cover in there, that doesn't allow the cutout for this. So I've ordered what I believe is the right handle cover there, and we'll put that on. This works beautifully though now. I did have the valve froze up when I first got it. We showed in a video, when I say we, it's Ken from Bolt On Hooks, and I showed in a video, I believe the summer of 2021, how to get those hydraulic valves freed up. It's an electric over hydraulic valve, and those electric solenoids can kind of get stuck. And Ken shows a very easy way in that video to get it unstuck. All it took was a screwdriver and push in the valve a little bit. It works beautiful. Go check out that video for a lot of details. We'll put a link right here, or here, or here, or in the description somewhere. Now, the 10 hours that I ran this machine were in the most dusty conditions imaginable, and that's why I ran the machine there instead of one of my other tractors. That's kind of allowed me to see some leakage that we get here. So it's clear that this coupler is leaking a little bit. Not enough to cause any serious issue, but you can see that the dust has got oily there, and you can just see other places where the dust kind of sticks that there might be a little bit of leakage. I kind of like that as a way of illustration, but this is by far the worst, and it's not bad. So I may leave that alone for a while. Let's take a look under the hood. Now, they changed the way the hood works in the 3R tractors from the 3X20 series. It's a one-piece hood on these machines. Boy, it really was dusty. We've cleaned up some of that dust, but it's amazing. The engine in here, the whole engine compartment looks beautiful. I mean, it looks new. And no, I don't think they've replaced the whole engine. But it really looks nice. The machine runs nice. Remember, this one does not have DPF on it. Pre-emissions tractor. I think we've hit something here. There's a little crack right here that doesn't look to be too big of a deal, and I believe the hood grill here has been dented in a little bit, and there's 3 rivets that have been busted out of this somehow. I think that's going to be pretty easily repaired. I ordered a new John Deere logo, so you know we can't be without our fancy logo, right?
How much did that cost us?
Oh, you know, it's John Deere, so it was $700 or $800.
Oh my goodness.
No, actually I think it was like 17, which, whatever.
Yeah.
This seat looks great. I think it's probably been replaced. I don't see any way you could have 3,630 hours on a seat and have it look this nice. But it is a Deere seat, so I don't think they chose to replace it with a, you know, a lower end, cheaper seat. The suspension is the mechanical suspension, not the air seat, although I do see the plug in here that I believe we could put an air seat in it. I won't take any action on that in the near term, but if I decide to keep this tractor for the long term, who knows, I might do that. We'll just have to see how this goes and see, you know, how it works for us over time. And as far as that goes, if one of you guys really wants this machine, it's probably for sale too. You know, we could move it and look for another one. But so far, I'm really impressed with this machine for the money that we've got in it. I'll talk a little more about that in a minute. Now, this console is really dirty, but it appears to be structurally sound, so I'm not too sure it's worth replacing. Christy thinks she could clean it up a lot, and I may give her a chance to do that and just see what we can do. If not, again, the part's available. I can replace it, or we can just say, hey, it's good enough for this machine. Same thing's true on the other side. Let's take a look over there. Now, even with the newer 3Rs, the right-hand door does not have any air shock or any way to hold itself open. Of course, the right-hand door is meant to be only used in emergencies. It's not easy to get out through this door, but you know what we find is that you use a door like this a lot of time for communicating with someone outside. And when you want to communicate with someone for a minute, the last thing you want to do is hold the door open. So I'm hoping that Deere will recognize that they need an air shock or some sort of a way to hold this door open. This console is just like the other side. It's just well worn. Again, structurally sound. I don't see any issue with that. Once we get the loader third function here all worked up, I think it's going to be fine. But I'm not replacing it at this point. I just want to just see if we can clean it up, see how it looks after cleanup, and then we'll go from there. Now, I can force that to squeak every time. I can also do it so it doesn't squeak. So it's not quite that bad, but something is worn in here, and it's worn such that there is some play in the steering. There's a little play in the column itself. And then when I'm driving the machine, sometimes I see the front wheels have some play even when the steering's not being moved. So there's several areas where wear is getting to us, and I don't have any concept yet of how that works. At some point, I'm going to have to take this steering column apart and see what's loose in there, see if there's something that just needs a little grease for the whine, because it is kind of annoying. But on the other hand, it's still functional, so it's not immediately critical. I'm reminded, as I started up here, that the air conditioner works beautifully. I forget what it's called, but the header panel, the carpet or whatever that's up here, looks dirty. I don't know if it can be cleaned, but it looks, again, structurally sound. It doesn't really look worn, except for it looks a little dirty. The radio works except for the antenna. The sun visor here has part of it torn here, but other than that, it's in pretty good shape. There are no external mirrors on the machine. There's one internal mirror. This was the standard cab. There is a deluxe cab version available, which comes with the mid PTO, the third function, and the air seat. It's fascinating. They got two of those three items. They got the mid PTO, they got the third function. They did not get the air seat. So really, they didn't save much money by going with the standard cab at the time. And it kind of frustrates me because I wish it had the air seat in it. At first I wondered, is it possible that it had the air seat originally? No, it did not. You can see that kind of detail when you look at the history. And again, a local John Deere dealer sent me the history on this. Like, you can just give them the serial number. They can show you the whole history, how it was configured from the factory. They can show you any warranty claims. This one had one warranty claim. I can't click it. It's a link, a clickable link for the John Deere dealer, and I didn't ask them to follow up, but it's a clickable link. They could give me that detail of what was claimed, but gee, it's got 3,600 hours, and that claim was at 120 hours, so I'm not even sure I care at this point what that particular claim was. Bo, what do you think? This one gonna work? I think it'll work fine. Yeah, I broke my number one rule, right? Don't buy a used compact tractor without a loader. But I really didn't break that rule. I know it looks like it. You don't see a loader. But this machine still has a loader available for it. And I knew that when I was bidding, right? Even though I couldn't control my hand, I knew that there was a loader available. Shortly after I bought the tractor, I got a price on that, somewhere around $5,700 for a brand new loader. As I said earlier, I called a John Deere dealer, not my dealer, AHW here. I got this from another dealer. I asked for their trade-in value, and they actually sent me a screenshot of their trade-in tool. It's very fascinating. I don't know that they would have to send you this, and on the other hand, I don't know that it's super secret, right? They have sent this with my serial number entered, and they can type in the number of hours that the machine has on it, and then they can get themselves an estimate. In this case, for this 2011 tractor, the price that they have is a base of 876 hours. So apparently the pricing is made assuming this machine has 876 hours. And then, according to them, they add or subtract, in this case, $2.73 per additional hour.
Wow.
Okay? You'll find that on newer tractors, they'll subtract more, maybe $6, maybe even $8 an hour. I think it's up to $8 an hour or so on a 1025R. It's fascinating. It may even be more, right, with the inflation that's hit. But with this machine, they allow $4,500, $4,523 if it has a loader. So I just mentioned that a new loader is $5,700, but if it had a loader on it, even an old one that was original with the machine, it would still be worth $4,500. That's why I suggest that you always buy a loader on your new compact tractor. If you'd have bought this tractor years and years ago, your loader would still be worth more than you paid for it, right? Because back then a loader would not have been more than $4,500 for this machine. So in 2011, so I submit you can essentially do that with a tractor. You can essentially use the loader for nothing over the longer term. Yeah, there might be a year or two in the middle there where it dips a little bit, but when you get up to the longer term, you're going to be able to use it for nothing. Overall, the trade-in price on this machine turns out to be about my $14,000 price. So I don't think I got hurt on it. That's the trade-in, that's not the retail price. So in theory, I should be able to sell this machine in its current condition for a profit, right? So you're not gonna find a 37 horsepower non-emissions tractor with a decent cab with working air conditioning for $14,000 no matter how many hours it's got on it. 3,600 is a lot of hours. On the other hand, I spent all weekend on the family farm. We'll have videos to follow over the next week or two from that. But I was in their 8335R and it's got 4,100 hours on it. It's a 2013 model and it runs and works just like new. They consider it their newest tractor with 4,100 hours, and it's in fabulous condition. One of the things that fascinates me about this machine is, how long can it run? I think that's an interesting question, and one of the reasons why I may want to keep it around here. Another reason I may want to keep this machine around is because of that low cost per hour to run it. $2.73 is all it's costing me on this machine to run this thing, right? And I suspect even a little bit less than that. Whether it's 3,700 hours or 4,000 hours, who is really going to know the difference, right? I mean, it's got a lot of hours on it. We've got some attachments that we want to show you that actually depend on that cost per hour as to whether they're effective or not, and we'll get to that in some upcoming videos too. The 10 hours that I put on it have been with the pull-type box blade, so I used the third function valve, and with the tiller. I used the PTO, this 6-foot tiller. That's all this machine wants at 37 horsepower. 5-footer would probably have been better in the conditions that we ran it, because it was hard. It was hard on that hump, and so it pulled it pretty hard. I'm confident now that the PTO is solid. I'm confident the third function is solid. There is some play in the joystick, that cable-driven joystick. I don't think I'm going to be buying a loader for this machine in the near term. Yeah, and I do think it's important to have a loader, but I don't think I'm going to be buying one for it, and there's a couple reasons. One is, if I were to sell it, I can leave someone else the option as to whether they want it or not, and it's still available. I can say that the day that they stop making a loader, or that I hear they stop making a loader to fit this machine, I'm going to be buying one if I still have it. Because I do not want to have to sell a machine without a loader that can't be added. That's very important to me. So even though I may have appeared to have broken my rule on loaders on this, I still feel exactly the same about it. And it's only because I can buy a new one at any point. So that's really the only reason why I was willing to go without a loader at this point. Overall, I don't really see anything major here from a cost standpoint. A lot of little things. Probably the biggest unknown for me is the steering issue and just the wear in the steering. I don't know what kind of cost I'm going to get into there, what kind of effort. But other than that, I think all of this is just little stuff that I can put on as I can afford, or as the finance committee lets go of a little funds to let me play with it. But other than that, I think it's a fine tractor. I'd like to hear your comments. What do you think? You think I made a silly purchase here? Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time on Tractor Time with Tim.
Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise.
Is there room for me in here, Bo? I'll go for a ride here, Bo. See what you think. Is it gonna be any good?